What up, martial arts people? Today we're doing something very special in the documentary Sunday reaction. So, my friend over at Monkey Steel's Peach is Will, and he's living in China. And he's a dude who is trying to explore the origins of Shaolin Kung Fu, but of Shaolin Kung Fu in a whole. And I asked him, hey man, can I react to one of your videos, one of your documentaries? Because man, this is fantastic. It is available in 4K. It's a 40-minute video about the last masters of Shaolin Kung Fu. And I would say, grab yourself something to drink and then let's have a good time together and watch this video. Okay guys, let's go. Just make sure we're having the best quality 4K and also the subtitles. Ooh, nice sweep. Yeah, the old temple glories where they used to train. Shaolin Research Society. Some professional gear there. Hi man. Appreciate your work. It's awesome. Some good old weights training for the core. Some sanda, nice. The Shaolin Heritage. Oh boy, I'm excited. Let's go.
When you think of the Shaolin Temple, images of a mystical monastery nestled deep in the mountains where warrior monks push the limits of their spirit in pursuit of enlightenment may come to mind. Or maybe you think of a Disneyland-type tourist attraction where daily circus-like performances are held and tour guides blare into megaphones to crowds of people. What is certain is that it's considered a mecca for all martial artists throughout the world, the place where, according to legend, Kung Fu was created after an Indian traveller taught Buddhist monks special breathing exercises and movements that evolved into a fighting system which would spread throughout Asia. My name is Will, and I have lived in China for the past 12 years, practicing and researching Chinese martial arts. I'm visiting the town of Dengfeng and the surrounding villages to find out what exactly Shaolin Kung Fu is, how does it differ from the popular perception, and what really is its influence on Chinese martial arts.
So classic advertisement
Joining me
here.
on this journey will be two close friends, Joel Ackerman, a long-time practitioner of Shaolin Xiniba and disciple of Hu Zhengsheng, and Thomas Lepinskas, who runs and teaches at the Shaolin Temple, Lithuania, and is filming his own documentary on the subject.
Nice. Maybe Rokas from Martial Arts Journey would have known him when he was in Aikido, where he eventually quit.
We will be basing ourselves at Joel's teacher, Hu Zhengsheng's school. Hu Zhengsheng is in a unique position in Dengfeng. Not only is he well connected to all the old masters, but he also runs a school large enough to preserve and popularize the old teachings. There are several hundred Chinese students here, some as young as 5 years old, as well as a small group of Westerners.
So from my knowledge,
The
this is not a
students here begin
temple.
with the grueling basics of Shaolin Kung Fu, as well as physical conditioning, acrobatics, and sanda, which is Chinese kickboxing. Master Hu oversees all their training and personally handpicks the most talented ones to learn his art of Xiniba. Before we head off on our trip, we sat down with Master Hu to drink some tea while he gave us an overview.
good old tea ceremony.
少林拳呢，我觉得它是和中原文化和中国的这个历史是相关联的。首先说少林寺呢，它是一个。
Well, unfortunately I don't speak Chinese or Mandarin, but really, when you want to do something like Will does here, when you really want to explore the roots of like a Chinese martial art, and you're not speaking the language itself, man, there's so many barriers, so many barriers. Because the translation, the language barrier is so immense. Maybe the master is meaning something, or the teacher is meaning something completely different, and you just don't grasp it because you are not understanding the words. I mean, as far as I know, Chinese is, from the structure of the language, pretty different than, for example, something like English or French or German or whatever. So if you want to do something like this, then that's pretty important that you speak the language, which Will does, and also some of his friends do.
1000多年的寺庙，然后呢，它是中国从古代这个历史演变、战争或是朝代的更换中间，这个把中国这个佛教或者说是这个武术，在民间或在历朝历代中间，把它吸收、冲出于少林，演变给它传学于少林，和地方民间以形成一个相互的共同成长的一个过程。少林寺它也不会说是去单纯的像社会上说去创造武术，它是吸纳社会武术，形成精华，形成一套以少林寺为或者少林地区为特色的一个武术门派，一个武术流派。
所以说，少林拳是。这不是说少林寺是创造了少林拳，而是吸收了外面的不同的拳法，融合在一起，
然后传学于少林。就在少林寺这边，他们是把外面好的武术留在少林，然后经过演练，更好的也留下，也有更好的留到社会上。所以说后来就形成了一个天下武功出少林，或者少林功夫传天下。这是客观来讲也是对的。他是把，因为有些武术在民间或者在某一个家或者在某一个地方可能没有了，但是少林寺这边还在延续着。
So my own style that I do, Hongar Kung Fu, is also what he mentions here, a family style. So it's named after like a famous person with the last name Hung or Hung, Hongar Kung Fu. So it was one of those persons was Wang Fei Hung, that like had a big influence on the style. And this styles where I think he's going to talk about this later in the video, when the temple was burnt down, or the temple were burnt down, the people would spread across the underground, because then Kung Fu, or the word Shaolin, was forbidden. And the people then thought, yeah, well, okay, we rename it so we can practice more, or we can practice. And that's how like the family styles, or the Choi Li Fat, all this the mock style, all these family styles of Kung Fu then were created, because they needed to go to the underground to practice their Kung Fu, because it wasn't allowed to call it Shaolin anymore. So they just named it after themselves.
所以说它起到一个历史的一个传承，这个作用是非常难得可贵的。
那作为一个佛教的寺庙，为什么要练拳？为什么练他们的拳那么出名？
这个可能和因为少林寺地处中原，也处于河南的中心，它是一个中国在以前的文化中间是一个核心地带。也与少林武术，你比如说它是一个坐禅呐，或者说是它是一个运动啊，他们中间就是说这个静的和动的相互结合，对身体的一种好，对身体的一种帮助。也可能，但是呢，少林武术呢，并不是说是都在少林寺里面，它是包括洛阳、登封、郑州附近这个几个省市，它有很深的这个民间的基础，比如说这个武术可能传到安徽，也会传到周口，也会传到这个洛阳，也会传到登封，他们相互之间的相互依存，只是说以这个少林寺而显。可能某一个家的一个人，他会传了2代3代，但到第4代他没有了。但少林寺是代代，它是子孙庙，这一代和尚有，下一代出家人师傅还有，再一代还有，他们在中间是没有就是完全切断，即使有了， 民间有的再会返回来，再会把它补上，或者是民间没有了，他会把民间的补上，形成了一个相互的包容、相互的共同的生长。
那可以说它就是一个交流武术的中心。
交流武术的中心，对，
就是有人进来，有人出去，
对，
然后一直在交流。
对，是的。少林圈呢，它这里面就是说有。
So this is something that I think a lot of people don't get about the Shaolin Temple. They think that Shaolin Kung Fu is like a style like, for example, boxing, kickboxing, or judo, karate. But it's actually not. It's like an umbrella term. Because, as they said, or as the master said there, Shaolin Temple did not create any martial art. The people would just come to the place, or to the temple, to practice. So they were guys that were a little bit better in like boxing. Some were more into ground fighting, maybe like something like judo or BJJ, what you call it nowadays. But the people would come to the temple and exchange, train together, finding solutions for different problems. Oh, what's going to happen when I do like this? What's going to happen when I do like this? How would you defend with your style? How would you defend with your style? So it was basically just a place where people would come and exchange knowledge in martial arts. And the umbrella term for what then was created is like Shaolin Kung Fu. So all these styles, I don't know, maybe like we're talking about 200-300 Kung Fu styles just out there. I know maybe like 5, 10, 15 or something by name. I'm practicing one. So it's really a broad field. But what it really comes down to is like, it was this exchange place. So it was like a martial arts university, right? Because the people from all around China would come and they were the strongest in their village and they would seek like other people to fight and then come and, oh, okay, maybe I can go there. I can go to the temple, to the Shaolin Temple. I have heard there are good fighters. They're good fighters. And maybe I can learn something there. Maybe I can raise up my prestige and something like this. And that's how like the martial arts were developed in the temple. And that's exactly what he said here. That's what we get told in my Kung Fu school. And when you see then that it's like proven from another source, because I've not talked to this man and I've not talked to Will to say this. So this makes sense then for me to have like this understanding of what Shaolin Kung Fu really is. It's not like a one fighting style. It's an umbrella term for a lot of different styles that do a lot of different things. It's not just like it's all this here, what you see now. Shaolin Kung Fu is much more. You have also wrestling, Shuai Chao. You have also different styles. When you just look at the differences between northern and southern styles, huge difference. All this acrobatic stuff that belongs to the north. What we do in the south, so to speak, Jolly Fat, Wing Chun Hung Gar, that's completely different. We barely have, for example, like high kicks, because when I fight with my instructor, man, we don't have time to do kicks, man. My head is always occupied with blocking and getting punches. But really, that's what I want that you understand, because it's not a style. It was. Maybe what's not nowadays. That's something that stays on a completely different paper, right? What it's made nowadays is more like a tourist attraction. But either way, I would love to visit it, just to see for the sake of it, because I said, yeah, it's a mecca for martial arts people. I think not just Kung Fu people, also for other people, it can be really interesting to see this, because do you have something like this Shaolin Temple in another martial art? Do you have this? I wouldn't be aware of it. If you know something, then please let me know. Maybe the Gracies have found something that would be also interesting, going to South America or something, where the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu started, but I'm not aware of something. Let me know in the comments if you know. I would be generally interested, really. So, but let's go back to the video. We digressed a little.
有功法，有拳法，有器械对练，到最后有心法，这各方面都是有一个完整的体系。可以说少林武术是一个丰富又完整，又非常规矩。非常成体系的一个武术流派，因为老的武术可能不是练3天5天，可能会练一辈子，新的武术可能练3天5天，练1年2年，好看漂亮或者怎么样，对吧？老的武术必须要投入这个感情和精力，甚至一生的时间， 多方面原因，现在老武术不光是少林的，很多老武术现在基本上都面临一个共同问题：传承。
There are hundreds of different forms practiced in the Dengfeng region, and just as many weapons. Contrary to popular belief, Shaolin Kung Fu has little to do with the imitation of animals, or with acrobatics. Instead, the major Kung Fu styles practiced here can be considered as branches of Changquan, or long fist. There is Tongbei Quan, which means through the back boxing, and is focused on connecting the arms through rounding the back to generate power. There is Pao Quan, which means cannon fist, and uses combinations of chopping motions with explosive straight punches into the body, like cannons.
Well, I think you know this when you watch this video.
There is Hong Quan, which is said to be descended from the soldiers who served under Ming Hongwu, the emperor who founded the Ming dynasty in the 14th century. Hong Quan is divided into Da Hong Quan, or Big Hong Fist, which uses large expansive movements with aggressive footwork that covers a large distance. Xiao Hong Quan, or Small Hong Fist, uses the expansion and contraction of the body to generate bursts of power. Another characteristic style is Luo Han Quan, which contains exotic-looking postures that imitate the 18 Luo Han, who are archetypal figures in Chinese Buddhism that represent cultivation through perseverance and endurance. We began the trip with a visit to the Shaolin Temple itself, as Thomas had arranged us a personal tour with a young monk by the name of Shi Yentui. Yentui didn't practice martial arts. That was generally done by the Wuseng, or warrior monks, who only take partial vows. Yentui was a fully ordained monk, meaning he spends most of the day out of sight of the tourists, reciting sutras and practicing meditation. He told us that he had practiced martial arts when he was younger though, and that it was this that led him to Buddhism and to follow the life of being a monk.
那么少林寺呢有少林寺的千年古刹。那么少林寺呢是建于北魏太和19年，公元呢495年，是北魏孝文帝为了安置印度高僧拔土而建。那么少林寺呢是建立在少室山与太史山的密林深处，因而得名叫少林寺。那么少林寺那3个字呢是康熙皇帝所写，因为康熙皇帝呢很少为他致敬。他只有在少林寺留下了3个字，那么就是少林寺的3个字。
It's like a tourist trip, right?
The history he gave us was pretty much the textbook version of Bodhidharma, a holy man from India, coming to Shaolin to preach a new form of Buddhism, one that would become known as Chan in Chinese or Zen
Buddhism
in Japanese. Key to this folklore is the idea that Bodhidharma, or Damwo in Chinese, taught the monks special breathing exercises, as well as giving them some manuals, including the I Jing Jing, or tendon changing classic. However, scholars involved in the research of martial arts history have concluded that this manual dates to no earlier than 1624 and was actually composed by a Taoist priest by the name of Zining Daoren. The attribution of martial arts to Bodhidharma seems to have begun around the 18th to 19th century, and so seems unlikely to have much truth behind it, although it is an important part of the folklore. The famous story of the 13 monks who aided Emperor Tang Taizong, aka Li Shimin, in the 9th century in suppressing a rebellion in nearby Luoyang is a famous story that is often told. What is interesting to note, however, is that at this time there was no mention of these monks practicing any form of martial arts. In fact, it's not until the Ming dynasty in the 14th century that martial arts are even mentioned in any records of Shaolin, and this was mostly references to weapons, particularly the staff. During this period, many warrior monks were recorded as having been recruited into various militias to defend the coastline and border regions from incursions, which on a side note has been suggested as a possible explanation for the myth of the southern Shaolin Temple in Fujian. The main body of literature suggests that empty-hand styles of martial arts began to flourish here during the Qing dynasty in the 17th century. Earlier, Master Hu had explained to us how Shaolin Temple wasn't responsible for creating any martial arts per se,
Yeah, that's really
but was
what we
just a
heard
hub
before, yeah.
where knowledge was exchanged. The
Like a
temple
martial arts
was
university.
always an important religious site in China, with strong connections to the imperial government, and controlled large swaths of land. This allowed it to accumulate huge amounts of wealth, but it also meant that it was the target of resentment, and it was ransacked and burnt down several times in history. We felt extremely privileged to have full access to the temple, to be taken to parts tourists couldn't visit.
That's not what everybody can do.
We were allowed into the halls to get up close to view the surviving murals, which are hundreds of years old and survived the burning of the temple in 1928. Regarding this most recent burning, local people told us that afterwards, several monks remained in the dilapidated temple, living under impoverished conditions, all the way up until the Cultural Revolution in the 1960s. We'd heard that one of these monks was still alive. He was almost 90 years old and had been teaching martial arts until recently. His name was Mao Yonghan, and we arranged
90
a meeting.
years and almost teaching.
When we
Like
arrived, we
89.
were greeted by his son, who led us into an old apartment building. We sat down for some tea.
Yeah, the
His
good
son
old
told
sign.
us that Mao's parents sold him to the Shaolin monks when he was 6 years old in exchange for some corn, and then left to be wandering beggars. Mao grew up under the care of the monks, who taught him about martial arts and Buddhism. And when he was 18, he left the monastic lifestyle to get married and raise a family. The entire meeting, however, was strained and uncomfortable, and it felt like all we were allowed to do was take some photos with him in front of a shrine. We left
Traditional.
feeling confused and suspicious.
That's sad, man. It's sad.
Despite the huge number of forms practiced in Shaolin Kung Fu, the principles of the system are actually quite straightforward and logical, and are incredibly similar to the principles of other systems of Northern Chinese martial arts.
Yeah, I think here, let me add my 5 cents here. So, I think here, what he's saying about the principles in a lot of forms. So they have a lot of forms and the principles are more or less the same. Okay. But when you have like, you have a problem, like a punch is coming to your head, then who owns that punch? I mean, who invented it? So the people were punching, I would say, more or less the same way they do nowadays, like they did 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 500 years ago. So that stayed the same. So the solutions for this particular problem also needs to be more or less the same, because you cannot change body mechanics, right? A punch stays a punch, jab stays a jab, the head kick, the roundhouse kick stays a roundhouse kick. So that is the same. So also the solutions need to be more or less the same. So maybe you have like 5, 6, 7, 8 solutions for one problem, but the conclusion of this will always be more or less the same, because the problem stays the same. So what I want to say by this long explanation is, if you have a good martial art, a well-thought martial art, well thought through, then you find the principles also in other martial arts. So you find principles in kickboxing that you have in boxing, that you have in my style, for example. When I took a little bit of kickboxing, I saw different things, but also like similar things, because man, the problem stays the same. The punch is coming, right? And not a lot of people, or a lot of people do Wing Chun, but most of the people punch like this and not like chain punch, Ip Man style. So if you're practicing martial arts, then also I would encourage you, really go to the world. Take maybe once a week, take something else, some other martial art in your city, in your village, around your village, and look for common principles. I'm sure you will find something if the martial art is actually a good martial art or is a legitimate martial art. Then you will see those things. And this is what's so cool about martial arts, right? because man, you can learn from almost everybody something. And I hate it when people say, oh, this martial art sucks, oh, this sucks, this wouldn't work. Okay, yeah, sure, maybe then you had maybe a bad experience. I'm sorry for that. So you maybe took like Tai Chi and you wanted to learn how to fight. So to blame it then on Tai Chi that you didn't learn how to fight, man, is that the fault of the style itself, or was it your fault because you had the wrong experience, or you had the wrong feeling, or you had the wrong start, the wrong idea of a style? But I know this like takes a lot, because then you don't put the blame on something else. You need to put the blame on you because you had the wrong expectations. But that's what I want my community to be here. I want that we can learn from everybody. I want that we can learn and look to everybody, because I know 100% everybody has something valuable to teach. Maybe some people have more, maybe some people have less, for sure. A little part is bullshit, for sure, but most of them really have something. But I would say, yeah, let's go back to the video, okay? With a little bit of a digression.
We were invited to the home of Wang Zhongren, who had agreed to explain them to us. We're in an outskirt of Dengfeng,
a lot of communists,
called Shaolin
right?
Block, Shaolin Xiaoqu. And
hopefully no Americans there.
A Shaolin master called Wang Zhongren. He's going to tell us a little bit about Qi Xing Quan and about his style of Shaolin, which they call Dengfeng boxing, kind of like a slang term for it. Dengfeng boxing basically means the style of Shaolin which is passed down among the people. It's like a folk style as opposed to the temple style. So he's going to tell us a little bit about that.
像小红拳吧，这个往上来，就是对方打我的头，我才这样上去的，我才这样上去的，对方要不打我的头，我就不这样去做的，滚着出去了，滚着回来了。第一个呢，他是滚着的时候，像那钻一样，可以把它木料钻个洞，木是钻个洞，但是他这个力量呢。 他就是你来打我，他这个力量，一转，一转，你来打我的时候，把力量开化掉，他把力量开化掉，但他这个开化的这是，在我们这里讲这个，一个是拳打四槽，
Yeah, like in Muay Thai here. Here now they say when striking, use 4 extremities, so both arms and both legs. So same principle, but a little bit. On the next level is Muay Thai, the art of 8 limbs. More weapons, elbows, heads, knees. Connection, right? Because it's the same problem.
就是讲到那个少林拳它的特点来的，滚出滚入，一个屈而不屈，直而不直，他在那个四扫的时候就讲这个发为血扫。 头发，发为血扫，发为血扫为叫怒发冲冠。少林拳的风格就是打人的时候要怒，怒到什么程度呢？帽子都能冲掉。
明白。
帽子都冲掉。一个是这舌为乳扫，就是肉，肉。 就是肉类最简单，舌如垂刺，横起来了，横起来了，把那个舌头的力量把那个牙能吹出去，就是舌为如草，舌为如草。这个手上呢，他这个手上讲这个自如钢钉，自如钢钉。练习的时候，你心里要这样想心里这样想你这心这就是理与义合，与义离合，这就这个结合出来。你的心到，你的力量才到；你的心不到，你力量都不到。这个六合呢，我理解的是这样，跟其他那个有些老拳师的理解的不大一样这个从外形上看呢，六合。 手与组合， 收与组合，这个周与齐相合，这个简与。
So when he's talking about being in harmony, I think he means like aligned and moving at the same time, right? To have the support of the body when crushing with the elbow.
在这从外边看到鹤啊，但是从里边的鹤，心与意鹤，心向到哪里，注意达到哪里。这个离心与离鹤，心向到哪里，力量达到哪里。另外心与这个近与离，心与近与离鹤，心向哪里，劲要用到哪里，这是离三合。这外三合周齐收组，这是按定力大拳是这样去做。
Having learnt some 心理六合拳 in Shanghai previously, I was struck by how similar these principles were.
It's crazy when you look at, let's go a little bit back. When you look at this man, what is he? 50 years old, maybe? Something there. And how he moves is like, wow. I mean, I hope I be there, or it's my big goal to be like this mobile and this explosive in my movements when I'm getting older, because man, I don't want to be like a cripple when I'm like turning 50, 60 or so and put in an elderly home and then be forgotten. No, I want to do stuff. I want to do stuff for a long time. That's also why I lift weights regularly, heavy weights, because I want to have muscles to support my body, to support my other training. And when you see now, look, such a guy moving like this explosively. And he's also mobile.
Having learnt some 心理六合拳 in Shanghai previously, I was struck by how similar these principles were.
I don't care if you now say, okay, maybe that shit wouldn't work in a fight or in a ring. Yeah, okay, but he's like an older man and he's moving. That's also something. Really, that's also something. Beside all the fighting aspects, fighting is important, but this is also, I would say, equally important. I mean, I see a lot of guys and also friends coming to work or walking around in the city when we meet each other that have like broken foot, broken shin or something from sparring too hard. And man, that's sad. That's really sad. I know it's part of it. You once in a lifetime you are going to be hurt when you fight. That's normal, but in sparring, is it the place to be injured in sparring? Don't know.
Find out more about later. One teacher I'd been particularly looking forward to meeting was Cui Zhongwu, son of the late Cui Xiqi. Cui Xiqi was one of the 10 great masters of Shaolin, a group of teachers responsible for returning martial arts to the temple when it was rebuilt in the 1980s. He taught the branch of Shaolin known as Western Courtyard. Shaolin Kung Fu is traditionally divided into 4 courtyards, one for each point of the compass. Today, only the Western and Southern courtyard styles survive. The Western courtyard style focuses more on an external to internal approach, meaning that the movements practiced in the form should look as close as possible to how you fight.
So not over-exaggerated,
Cui Zhongwu's village was just
straightforward.
beside the main entrance to the Shaolin Temple tourist area. In fact, it's hidden right behind the gas station where the tourist buses park. 他在吗？在。我上午给他发了微信。来吧，过来了。
But if you can't speak Chinese or Mandarin, then you're lost in this situation, really.
Master Cui was initially very hesitant about letting us film. He was a very conservative and old-fashioned teacher. Finally, he warmed up to the idea and took us to an open space behind his home, gave us an eclectic talk on some aspects of his system. This eclectic way of teaching is a very old and traditional way, and one that I had experienced many times in different parts of China.
Yeah, basically like the old way, the old way of teaching is like, and I talked with a lot of people that are in the martial arts community or in the martial arts industry for like 10, 20 plus years, and they all tell me the same. The old way of teaching is like the teacher doesn't provide solutions. You have to get it for yourself. And man, we here in the West now, we are just completely different. We are built different. We can't do this. I don't know what it is, but like the Chinese people, when they train martial arts like this, when they train Kung Fu, they just do it. They repeat. And they somehow doesn't get tired. As far as I know, maybe there's something else. Okay, maybe I'm missing something, but that's my experience that I have so far. And here in the West, man, people, they need something else. They need to be fed with something. And I think that's also why we have in the West now the belt system. We know for a fact that there were some kind of belts in the old martial arts, also in karate and so on. But with what we have now with the white belt and maybe yellow, orange, green, blue, violet, red, and so on. You know, every martial art has a different belt system. It's really just like for the Westerners, not necessarily to take more fees for the exams, but, well, that's for sure a part, but also to provide the student with a next goal, with a next level. Because, man, I'm sure you have also experienced this. When you don't have a clear goal and vision, man, you are almost lost. So, okay, you know now for your next belt, you need to execute like the kicks. You need to do the round kick, front kick, roundhouse kick, the side kick. You need to have those in your repertoire of fighting, and you need to conduct it with proper form, proper body alignment, and then you are promoted with the next belt. So, okay, you need now exactly what you need to do and learn for your next promotion. Awesome. And then you move on, and on and on. But in the old way, you didn't have this. You just came to the master's home. Maybe he was there, maybe not. And you would just train for yourself. And he would do like, okay, do like this. And you wouldn't explain it in another way. He wouldn't. Always the same. Yeah, look, just look. No. You're wrong. You're doing it wrong. Look. And I think that's something that when people or when masters don't open to this transformation that we are facing right now in the modern days, everything goes online, everything goes like TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, everything is bam, fast paced, then yeah, that's the fine line. Because you also want to keep some of the traditions, because I think it's also some value to do things for a long time. It sucks, but I think there's also value. But yeah, where do you draw the line? That's the question. That's the real question, if like a style will survive or not. Because one thing, in my opinion, is for sure, if traditional martial arts don't adapt to the new things that are coming, man, they are going to be lost sooner or later. That's it.
If you expect to be given all the answers in a systematic way in just a short period of time, you'll be very disappointed.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking.
Martial arts must be grasped piece by piece over a long period of time, and you need to join the dots and make the connections for yourself. This method of passing on information, while seeming strange to a Western mindset, actually gives you a more organic and holistic understanding, as opposed to a mere intellectual one.
Man, yes, big lads. Do you see that? Nice wings.
你这里就会防寒掉，是吧？明白。对，要趴着走。趴是软的意思，是软的啊。明白。在这里缠住是没有发力， 他打这里容易发展。练功必须得有手把。我今天讲的这个，必须得有手把，没有把就不成功。你跟着老师才能学到有把。就是不让你看，你以为他练的是啥？那最好的功夫。
That's the best Kungfu. That's the best. That's spirit.
你练的是最高境界。你看呀，他这不是？你刚才看那个动作，他这一缠开，他这一压开，这个动作还没有达到，他们达到这样。
That's actually also something for when somebody grabs you here. Not just to necessarily take the hand off, but really to option for pain.
完了，就这么简单。
不是全线吗？
啊，你别慌嘛，这小三节
啊，
中三节呢，扫节、中节、跟节，又完了，又完了，对，上下你看，这不扫节、中节，跟节，又完了，就这么简单。讲到这个三节，就像这棵大树一样，这个大树你要想把它杀掉，只有那树身，它能砸伤人。如果是真正树梢能伤到人，那只是寥寥的轻伤，对不对？真正还是说那树身。说要少林腿就是少林腿功，就要求少林腿功是根基。这三节功，都是南拳北腿嘛，叫个少林拳，腿功就是根结的意思。如果你要是对这研究的话，你时间长就明白什么叫根结，什么叫中结，什么叫扫结。但是这里面用途很多了，那前面啊，哪这？不是就到了？你看我听见，都是这样的，看见没有？把下，你挂到了。
One of the oldest and most senior masters of Shaolin Kung Fu is Xu Wudao, who lives in a village deep in the mountains nearby the town of Yanshi, a few hours by car from Dengfeng. Master Xu is the only teacher of Hu Zhengsheng still alive, and he practices the southern courtyard style. In contrast to the western courtyard, the southern courtyard uses softer, more flowing movements and more complex spirals. Unfortunately, Master Xu is approaching 90 years old and is no longer able to practice or teach, so we just went to pay our respects and talk with him and some other villagers.
The people get crazy old, right? 90 years, this man? Man, that's still awesome. I know people that are 90 that are like...
这师傅叫什么名字？
吴树和，吴树和，
卢山。
啊，啥时间学的呢？我才18岁。你说吧。
哪一年？
那我记还会记来。哦，关东拳、阮氏拳，我这说的拳是少林寺南院的。少林寺南院。吴和，他只会画。少林寺南院、北院那都是他票画的。
南院、西院或者西山院，西山院就是现在说的称为北院，就是为西山院。
北院，那是他代表的人才。
啊？
那这传承代表是啥？
那个啥？
西山北院这么。
那你现在？他主要是跟咱谁吧？主要是跟咱玩是西院啊、永信等着起来了。实际是南院一直没有当过起来，他不当起来。但是人家的功夫好。
南院是功夫。
南院主要是功夫好。
武功好。
那咱玩南院主要就是
The man who drove us there is no stranger to Shaolin Kung Fu either. He's a doctor of Chinese medicine by the name of Yang Wenchao. His father, Yang Guiwu, was actually Master Hu's main teacher and another of the 10 great masters of Shaolin. Dr. Yang took us to his clinic to tell us a bit about the tradition of Shaolin medicine. And it turns out he also knew some of his father's Kungfu, which he was keen to show us.
早比如说你走个气吧，你咱们自然走个气，你这个心道，它这意念到啊，它自然都走了。你就是你意念，你都它自然都到。
好，明白。就是，如果我用心，就是我想到，这个意自然会。
你要当人，你最起码用心去当。你自己好比说，我都不想去当人，你这功夫你能练成啊？练的时候，你没练全练动作的时候，你就感觉到这前面有人和人在对道。真正用的时候，没人，像练拳一样。这是叫意念。
明白。
这是你这手脚身法，它必须都得配合住。你配合不住，我是这样推你了，你会到不会？但是我要推到的时候，
对，
他这样同时要到。其实这手法我要进，同时我要看，这下你还想再变，我这时候就有上来。这个叫盖上。
对，这是显化权来的。
这是盖。好比说这个我不接触不那么多了，我双手也可以上。
明白。这可能是。
Master Hu has dedicated his life to preserving the knowledge of all of these old masters and passing it on to those interested. Having spent the last few days visiting various masters, I was keen to spend some more time with Master Hu and find out what he had learned from these people. He kindly offered to teach me some of the core ideas of Shaolin Kung Fu, as well as some exercises from Xiniba that would help me improve my own training.
走圆就是你不管是从哪边走，圆上阴过来的时候啥，就要这个阳。就是你走的时候，感觉就是我在练武术的时候，我不要去走手，不要去走脚，你再往前走就随便走，一定不走的，一定感觉你要走的话，一定是啥后手，是后面，一定是啥后边这个发这个脊髓这个力量，发这里到这里，这个我们说的龙骨的，发这个力量当中才行，对，发后面的力量。发后面的力量，你们看，你是啥？就像啥？你比如说，你可能比如说害怕，举个例子，用这里摸，不是后背的力量，因为这都是小打小吧。用后背整体的力量，你肯定是去圈子力量的，去做一件事情。这样的话就是说，对吧？你看这不一样，对不对？你用圈子力量做一件事情。
I wanted to know more about this Xiniba. It seemed to be something all the old masters avoided talking about. I knew that it was related to Xini Liuhe, and by extension the popular art of Xingyi Quan. But beyond that, I was just curious what this system was made up of.
They're all fat here. I don't think that's accurate.
那行一把是怎么来到少林这里呢？因为大家可能就是知道的有回民的行一六合或者行一拳，可能大家可能知道的比较多，但是少林也是有行一把，可能很多人还是不太了解。
我所了解到的行一把是这样的，首先它有一个历史渊源。行一把从什么来呢？我认为简单的说，它是有这个长枪，由枪演变而来的。枪呢，就比如说我们的枪里面就南拿扎，对吧？
Man, it's crazy. Really, what he's saying here that Shiniba, or I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, has evolved from a spear, from long spear. I yesterday had a seminar where we would learn a form, just a form, Laugar Kwan, from Hungar. So it's the form. It's the first form with the pole, with the long pole. The pole is like, I would say, 20 centimeters higher than I am. So it would be like a 2-meter pole or something. And really, what you can see is when you do the movement, you always have also the connection with the hands. So what I mean by that is when you do the movements, you see that you are also doing the stuff with your hands. So if you're not holding the spear or the pole, the movements sometimes also make sense also in that way. And this is pretty much what he also says. And it's again a moment for me that I realize, oh man, okay, he's talking the same that my master's talking here or my instructor's talking here in Switzerland, and they're talking the same shit. Yeah, it's interesting, right?
但是我们新一把里面有基本上动作是很相近的，包括步伐，包括这个很多方面相近的。我相信新一把是从枪演变而来，演变就是据我们这现在能看得到的这个全谱或者是秘籍记载，我们能看得到的是明末清初，有一个山西的龙凤县的一个基农先生，也就是这个上面所讲的山西龙凤县基农先生，他是一开始练大枪的，最后他觉得这个大枪在一个就是行走带着不方便，怎么把枪法扔掉，变为拳法，发枪为拳。
I mean, how are the people going to look if you carry a halberd with you or a long spear in the train, in public transport? Do this. Tell me the reaction.
这是一个比较客观的，这是有这个记载的。然后变过这个东西呢，在洛阳就传到这个人就是那个传到那个郑武奎，这个人是河南等红的郑武奎，乾隆年间。往上面走，从底下往上面转，而且打出中线，从这个膝盖、挡部、站准、后接这里，包括这个天灵盖儿，全部打出中线，包括他这是起打，落了出来这拍，走下，反正都是这样，都是用的是打中线，也有可能甚至一再甚至一溜从旁边，咣就是一巴掌，也有可能我不想从这边，我从这边上去了，也有可能我是直接我就不管，咣这个上去了，就这样上，他就不给你，就是说他不会说给你画圈啊、绕弯啊，因为他起手的话，他是落着就直接啥，直接下深了，直接深度还下，深度还下不起来。但是他走的时候，你看手很宽，中间这个小慢手变窄，什么手训练变窄了，他走明白训练手。
什么是信一把？这信一把是什么意思？
信一把呢，就是如果按照我们我个人理解哈，是这样的，用心意，用我们的思想意识，去把持我们的作为或者我们的武术，就是用思想和我们的形体控制在一起，掌握我们的武术的一种方法。
那在我们在打的时候怎么体现呢？
还是用心意控制身体，就形神一体，就是我们想的和我们的动作达到完全的吻合，完全的心意一体。就是我想干嘛，我就自然就干嘛。我们说的自然，在武术中间体现的就是六合，六合就随心随意，内外合一。我们的身体，和我们的思想意识，比如说我们感觉有危险，我们有危险时，我们身体要有变动，就是身体和我们的思想和我们的反应是完全结合在一起，这就六合，就是身体和精神。或者是心意的东西，心意就是想法。我认为武术到最后修啊，最重要是一个心得。可能我们刚开始练了很多东西，我们背了有500斤的东西。当我们练过以后，我们就会把一样的东西都扔掉。扔掉之后就发现我找到了我自己。可能这个自己就是我们自己的武术。
啊，明白。
不是越练越重，是越练越轻。
That are very good
One
words.
thing I couldn't
Very,
help
very good
thinking
words.
while Master Hu explained the meaning of Shiniba is that the very name belies a philosophy. This idea of pure mindfulness, to be absolutely focused on and immersed in the movement you're doing, to harmonize the mind and body in your action.
I think this what he's talking about now here, this mind and body harmony, can also be translated to mind-muscle connection, because when you have been doing martial arts for quite some time, you've been maybe 1 or 2 years into martial arts, and then you start fighting, you start sparring, and you try out now the applications, you will find that you suck. You will find that you suck really bad. At least that was my experience, and I still suck, because it's not trained enough in the mind-muscle connection. So what it means, like, when you want to do something, your body will follow. And it's not that you have time when you fight to think about, I'm now going to do this. When he throws a left jab, I'm going to do this and this move. No, you don't have time. This comes with experience, and the experience leads to this mind-muscle connection. You see a little rotation in the shoulder when he's pivoting, when he's like telegraphing, okay, now when he does this, your mind will automatically select different options than what you have had in the past as an experience, as a sparring experience, what worked. And that's why I think they're talking about this like harmony thing, mind and body in harmony. This is what is like a more down to earth like explanation for me, because no offense, this all sounds pretty good and pretty well structured, but it's still, for me, it's a little bit like in the clouds, you know what I mean? And having this like mind-muscle connection explanation for myself helps me big time, because when you do weights training, you also have this mind-muscle connection. You know, when you do an overhead press, you know how your delts are going to feel. When you do a bench press, when you do a heavy squat, you concentrate, you focus. Okay, I want to focus now on my quads when I'm going in this upward motion in the squat. And this is really this mind-muscle connection, that you can control muscles in your body with your mind, and what leads then to the mind-muscle connection. I think that's what it's about, for myself at least. Maybe you have another explanation, then I'm really keen to hear in the comments, and maybe also for the others to like see what you have for an explanation, that we all can learn from each other. This is what I want my community to be here on YouTube. But let's watch the last couple of minutes.
Your life can perhaps lead to greater fulfillment overall.
And we're already now in.
And what of the influence of Shaolin Kung Fu on Chinese martial arts as a whole? Well, my time here has made me realize that question is not as...
Is there... I don't know. Are there martial arts in China that are not associated with Shaolin? Are there? I don't know.
Simple one to answer.
Maybe I'm just...
The Shaolin Temple itself wasn't the creator of Kung Fu, only a hub where local styles were practiced and exchanged. Perhaps that question needs rephrasing. As we've seen, the various styles practiced in and around Shaolin are a mishmash of old long fist styles, held together by a set of principles.
Doing some weights there with the tires, awesome.
These principles, indeed, can be found in many other styles in China. And if I want to answer
other
this
styles
question
around the world.
properly, I must widen my search and explore the martial arts of other regions of China.
This looks amazing, right? The building here, the wall.
Another popular style, Xinyiquan, shares many of these principles, and even a common ancestor with Xinyiban. It would be a logical follow-up then for my next journey to explore the art of Xinyiquan.
And we're most certainly also going to watch this, Will. Wow, this has been really amazing. Thank you very much, Will, for this documentary. Please do me a favor, go over to Will's channel. Please hit that subscribe here also on Monkey Steel's Peach, because Will, man, you're doing so good. You're doing so good of a job when researching all this Kung Fu things. You go to the old masters, you go down in the villages, man. That's something I cannot do. Well, I could do, but I'm living like on the other side of the planet. And you live there, and you live there and do these things, man. That's awesome. Really, really. That's awesome. Please, that's it with this episode of Sunday Documentary React. Please write down also some videos that you want me to react, or maybe you have something else. Maybe you have something from a boxer, maybe you have something from Taekwondo, from karate. I want to see all of those things. Please write it in the comment and maybe we watch it together next Sunday. So take care and let's go and train, guys.